Alright, hey everyone. I'm gonna give my thoughts on Red Harvest by Dashiell Hammet, as well as my personal interpretation of a couple of the themes that I saw the most, specifically the masculine identity and morality, and kind of connecting those two. But just to start off with, I'm gonna give a little bit of context before I get into the deep stuff. So basically, Red Harvest is your classic American mid 20th century hard-boiled detective novel um, that explores the way individuals and their minds change when they are exposed to constant and incessant violence amidst a climate in which people's lives are viewed as completely insignificant and hopeless and futile. Obviously, this is bound to turn people into monsters and make them do some pretty crazy things, which is really interesting to me personally to see something like this, like really explore those themes, even though it was published in 1929. It explores those same hard-boiled themes that a lot of the other hard-boiled detective novels explore, but this is a lot more dark and a lot more violence focused. But it really focuses on this bleak reality that directly conflicts with the American dream, especially in the 20s, um, which really makes it notable because of the degree of violence in it, which is really interesting. Obviously, there's this concise, terse language that seems to almost read like a screenplay. At least for me, it seemed to read more like a screenplay. I could see it kind of playing in my head, kind of like a movie. But not all the language was so like straightforward and like no nonsense. There was also a lot of descriptive things, like the way that rain was described as like raining like bullets, basically. I thought that was really cool. That how the language could, be transformed from, the trite to the imaginative, which is something that I thought that Hammett was really skilled at. He was really skilled at turning some like ordinary, straightforward language into something that could be descriptive and even beautiful sometimes in some rare occasions. But obviously, Red Harvest is constituted around a series of bloody confrontations as all of these local gangs are struggling for power or competing for power. But obviously, this brings forth some major moral dilemmas as Continental Op, the unnamed main character, that's the only name we're given, um, he believes that he has to use violence in order to control it and contain it, but obviously it causes him to question his own masculinity and his own virtues and morality, and it really makes us question if his actions are justified. Is it right to kill someone who is also trying to kill someone? And that's when it becomes kind of a slippery slope, because inevitably this causes Op to be swept up in all of this bloodlust, and it becomes harder and harder for us as the reader to separate the hero from the villain, and inevitably Op becomes more of an anti-hero than a protagonist or a hero at all, which definitely sets him apart from the thoughtful, more I guess morals focused Spade from the reading before. And so focusing more on the masculine, going back to what Bruce says in his article, it says that the text reveals the cultural costs of his ethic of moral detachment and instrumental rationality. Later on, Op emerges violently out of control, a blood-simple vigilante who produces more violence than he prevents. Addressing the fact that the detective novel is predominantly a masculine novel that's more, male focused, it displays more of those dominant, like, masculine traits that people could see as, like, toxic, which is really interesting. And as this world of violence and corruption becomes more and more pervasive in Personville or Poisonville, as we come to know. Op's moral and masculine identity is questioned and challenged as he struggles with the virtue to maintain order, which is typically a masculine virtue or masculine desire. Um, his motivations become a lot more self interested, which makes his masculinity a little bit more toxic, um, which, brings into, the male theme or the male centered atmosphere of Red Harvest. Obviously, the world of Red Harvest is extremely male centered. There are way more male characters than there are women. Um, and obviously, this world is full of aggression and male rivalry and competition and obviously violence. But this goes into my question. In regards to masculinity that is personified by the main character, Continental Op, how do you characterize him against a femme fatale character like Dinah? Especially when looking into their character archetypes, like the lonesome private investigator versus the femme fatale. How do you view his masculinity against more of like that mysterious, seductive female character? Do you think that changes the meaning of a masculine character for you when it is presented in this way? Um, and why do you believe his masculinity is presented in this way? Do you think it's a front for something, or do you believe that it just, do you believe it's just the way that masculinity is presented in this particular time and era that is, bound to evolve as years continue to go on?